Good evening. 3 more people have tested positive in the UK for coronavirus, with Northern Ireland confirming its first case tonight. All of them were infected after travelling to Italy or Tenerife. They're now being treated at specialist NHS infection centres. To date, more than 7,500 people in the UK have been tested for the virus. 16 were positive. 8 of them have now been discharged from hospital. But with more cases expected to emerge, the government is set to launch a new public health campaign. Fears about the impact the virus could have on the global economy has caused markets to plunge today. More on that in a moment, but first here's our health editor, Hubei.
Another frustrating day for British tourists confined in quarantine at this Tenerife hotel. An Italian visitor tested positive for the coronavirus on Monday. There was confusion when the local health minister said 50 Britons who'd arrived since Monday were free to leave. They seem to have decided not to, as advice from their travel agent and the Foreign Office was to stay put. Meanwhile, a parent at this school in Derbyshire who'd returned from Tenerife tested positive. The school was closed for a deep clean. A local GP practice also asked patients to stay away because of the case, one of 2 diagnosed in England today. And tonight, confirmation by Northern Ireland health chiefs of the first case there. The patient had travelled from northern Italy.
Public health staff here are now working rapidly to identify any contacts the patient has had with the aim of preventing further spread.
All of that has further fuelled public interest in the virus and getting tested. The NHS is expanding the options, including this drive-through facility. We were given the first look at how it works. Laura here is a member of NHS staff. She's just going to demonstrate what actually happens. So she stays in the car, she winds down the window, and then 2 members of the nursing team will come out to meet her. One of them has got the full protective equipment on. Her colleague stands back at a safer distance. Erica, the senior nurse, shows information about the procedure
Tilt your head back for me, Laura.
and then carries out nasal and throat swabs. They're sent off for testing. People are referred here by NHS 111 if they don't have symptoms but need to self-isolate. They get through 12 tests a day. The aim is to roll out facilities like this across the country. One key question: how to protect yourself. The message from health leaders is that masks don't necessarily help much. They say that careful hand hygiene is the best way to slow any spread of the virus. A new public information campaign like this is set to be launched soon.
It is washing your hands with soap and hot water or using alcohol and sanitizer gels. If you want to sneeze or cough, use a tissue and then bin it. All of these things will keep you and your family safe.
So how prepared is the NHS? Coronavirus pods have been created at leading hospitals to allow safe testing. The NHS 111 helpline will be expanded, and if there are a lot more cases, NHS leaders say hospitals will be able to cope.
I know the NHS is busy and we're coming out of winter, but we are well prepared to manage this sort of circumstance. We do it every winter when we know we will see high rates of influenza, for instance, so we have a blueprint to work on.
But health experts are concerned by the global spread of the virus. One said tonight it was an unprecedented challenge to health systems, economies and societies. Hubei, BBC News.
Well, stock markets around the world have plunged as investors get seriously worried about the coronavirus and the impact it could have on global economies. It's been the worst week on the markets since the financial crisis in 2008. Michelle Fleury is in New York for us now, and today has been particularly bad.
Yeah, I mean, this was not a day for the faint-hearted, certainly if you ask any trader. From the City of London to Wall Street, we've seen yet again sharp drops in the prices of stocks. All of this being driven by investors who are basically pretty worried about what is happening with the coronavirus. Over £150 billion has been wiped off the value of the FTSE in the last 4 days. And here on Wall Street, you've seen the Dow Jones Industrial basically just suffer its biggest points loss in history. It also joins other markets slumping into a correction, which is a drop of more than 10% over a period of days. And the price of oil continues to fall sharply. What is happening is that investors are trying to do what everyone else is, and that is to predict what will happen next. How far and how fast will this virus spread? The impact on corporate profits could be severe if you start to see offices close, people stop travelling and people stop shopping. We've even had a warning from one of the big Wall Street banks, Goldman Sachs, saying it could tip the US into recession.
Michelle in New York, thank you. Well, coronavirus has spread to 50 countries now and reached every continent except Antarctica. Worldwide, there have been more than 82,000 cases and 2,800 deaths, almost all of them in China. In Japan, where they're preparing for this summer's Olympics, all state schools are to close for a month in a bid to stop the further spread of the virus. The vast majority of the deaths in China have been in Hubei, the province where the outbreak began. Our China correspondent John Sudworth has been speaking to one doctor who is on the front line in Wuhan.
At the end of a tough shift fighting the virus, a doctor steps out onto the streets of a deserted city. Wuhan is still in total lockdown.
Hello, Dr. Xie.
Hey.
How are you?
In an officially approved interview with Dr. Xie Jiang, as well as in videos provided to us, the BBC has been given rare access to a man on the front line of a war, which he says is being won.
I came to Wuhan 1 month ago. Patients were pouring into the hospital like a tide, and we do not have enough beds available for everyone. I think things are holding up better right now.
Wuhan shows what the virus can do to a health system. The thousands of extra beds have begun to make a difference, but there are still major challenges.
I'm not satisfactory with those mortality. I still think the mortality is really too high. For patients with severe symptoms, the mortality is even higher than SARS. That's the thing we should address right now.
This is Dr. Xie dealing with one of those severe cases among thousands in Wuhan. No city in the world, he says, would have enough specialist equipment to cope. Even doctors have died, including Li Wenliang, one of the first to try to warn about the dangers of the virus, only to be silenced by the police.
You know, I was very sad when I heard this kind of news. It's really a big blow for us, for the whole medical stuff.
Do you think China should learn lessons as a result of his death?
Absolutely. Information disclosure is really important. I lost 5 patients in one night. Can you imagine that? In one night, I lost 5 lives. I should warn the rest of the world that you guys should take care. Don't neglect this disease.
At the end of another night shift, this time Dr. Xie sings a patriotic song. He believes China will win this fight, but it's one the rest of the world may have only just begun. John Sudworth, BBC News, Beijing.
And you can find out more about the symptoms and how to guard against coronavirus on the BBC News app and on our website.